I call to order the Bedford Township Planning Commission regular meeting for August 9th, 2023. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Lamkowski absent this evening. Jody, can you take the roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Helm?
Here.
Mr. Steiner? Mr. Andrews?
Here.
Mr. Mahoney?
Here.
Mr. Fritz?
Here.
Mr. Crovret?
Here.
All present?
Very good, thank you. Item number 4, approval of the agenda. Looking for a motion.
Second.
Moved in support. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Agenda is approved. Item number 5, approval of the minutes of June 14th, 2023.
Second.
Moved and supported. Yes.
I was recently watching a township meeting replay. Everybody could please make sure to speak up and speak into your mics, because the meeting that I watched, probably 2/3 of the members, you could not hear them. So we have to make sure that we get these mics adjusted properly.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate that. And sorry, I'm looking back to see. I'm assuming, George, are these working okay? The mics working okay? No. Rick. So we'll continue. There it is. All right. At this time, looking for, oh, I'm sorry. No, we haven't approved those yet. So I was not here. I'm going to abstain from this vote since I missed the meeting on the minutes. With that noted, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Item number 6, public comment. Is there anyone at this time from the public who would like to speak on a topic other than item number 7B? Okay, seeing that there's no comments at this time, we'll move on to new business. Item number 7A, request for a sign waiver for Michigan windows and doors on parcel number 58-02-035-010-31, located at 200 Enterprise, Temperance, Michigan 48182. Jody?
The applicant is Allied Signs, 33650 Giftos, Clinton Township, 48035, from Kim Allard. Owner, Michigan Doors and Windows and Doors, 200 Enterprise, Temperance, Michigan 48182, I-1 Planned Industrial Park. The applicant is seeking to install 3 private directional signs measuring 6 square feet of signage and 4 feet in overall height in the I-1 Planned Industrial Park zoning district per section 419.22, number 1, letter D, states a private directional sign shall be permitted for uses requiring a site plan under the ordinance and for other uses when a private directional sign is specifically approved by the Planning Commission in order to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare without a building permit or an approval by the township, and said sign shall not be regulated by the other provisions of this section. For each exit, entrance, change of direction, parking, handicapped access, and loading and unloading area. So as long as each freestanding sign does not exceed 3 feet in height and 2 square feet in surface display area, and each non-freestanding sign does not exceed 2 square feet of advertising, but a logo shall be allowed, which shall not be a major part of the sign, and which shall not distract from the exit, entrance, change of direction, parking, handicapped access, or loading and unloading area being described or referred to. Therefore, a waiver is required to permit the proposed 3 private directional signs, as well as each sign requires a 4 square foot area waiver and an overall 1 foot height waiver as presented. It shall be verified where the location of the signs will be, as the submitted aerial rendering is not what is actually on site. Per section 419.22.6, in an I-1 district allows for 1 accessory wall sign not to exceed 50 square feet in area. The applicant is proposing 2 wall signs, one to identify the address of 200, not to include the street name, and a second wall sign to state the name of the business, MI Windows and Doors. While the overall total of the 2 sign wall signs does not exceed the overall 50 square feet in area permitted by ordinance, only 1 wall sign is permitted. Therefore, a sign waiver is required to permit 1 additional wall sign. Should the request be considered, the following waivers are required. A waiver to allow 3 private directional signs, a 4 square foot area waiver for each of the proposed private directional signs, a 1 foot overall height waiver for each private directional sign, a waiver to permit 1 additional wall sign as presented. The following shall be considered in inclusion for a motion to approve. All required permits shall be obtained from Bedford Township, and the applicant shall continue to maintain the entire perimeter landscaped area of the base of the signs less than 2 feet wide, growing, and in healthy condition. And in this case, the landscaping isn't required on the directional signage. That's because it's on the curb of the road.
Thank you, Jody. Is there anyone from the applicant at this time who'd like to provide any comments? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Planning Commission members. My name is Bob Bongiorno with Allied Signs, representing MI Windows and Doors. We're requesting some variances for a few directional signs and a wall sign. First, I'd like to bring the attention to the board members that upon submittal with the application, the proper site plan was not available at the time. I do have the proper site plan with me now. I have enough copies for every member if you need.
That would be great, actually.
Okay.
Bob, are you with the window company or the?
No, I'm with the sign company. I'm with Allied Signs.
I'm going to actually not take one because just so the board commission is aware, the rendering that the Planning Commission did submit is the most recent of the approved site plans. We did locate one, and I knew they were working on trying to get an example of one.
Yes, and as you can see with the current correct site plan of the building, they've almost doubled their square footage of building space. So we would like to get variance for the MI Windows and Doors window sign and also the directional signs. With the directional signs at the approaches going into the proper areas indicating shipping and receiving area at the south lot, and employee and visitor parking lot at the north lot, and a main entrance sign showing the main entrance to the facility. I think with the directional signs, especially with shipping and receiving, it'll keep semi-traffic going in the wrong area, pulling in and out with semi-trucks for deliveries and picking up product. We're requesting a little bit bigger of a square footage for directional signs for visibility purposes. 1 2 square foot that's allowed is very small on that big lot in the building area that's there, and we feel that the visibility for a directional sign with 1 foot by 2 foot for 2 square foot at 3 foot overall height is a little bit small for that facility, especially in Michigan when we get piles of snow or snow plowing comes in and plows snow, piles of snow can build up, and 3 feet really isn't that tall of a sign and can get buried easily in the winter snow plow, in plowing in the snow in the wintertime. The wall sign with MI Windows and Doors, it's not that big of a sign. It's non-illuminated. And then the other thing was the address, I believe. It's considered a sign. Would that not be classified as an address and be required by the fire department for calls and runs to that facility with an address on the building? Why would that be considered a sign? Doesn't every building in the township need an address on its building to be found in case of emergency on 911 calls?
Jody?
And I did speak to this Kim from Allied Signs, and just for some clarification, we'll start with the wall sign that I explained to her. I look at it as 2 wall signs because first they want to leave the road name off, and it's not on the main section of the structure, which is the office down at the far end. I understand their concern for the fire department because they do not own to the end of the road. They own in front of their structure, and then that portion of the road is what comes off of Crab Road. If you look at the rendering where it's highlighted in pink, that is the road that comes down to the structure, and it's not like a main section line road. It is a road off, and their parking is to the south. But considering it as 2 wall signs, I encourage them to, because it's not on the front of the building. I know they're trying to give direction for the semi-drivers. Majority of the people coming into the main office are people that actually work there, so they know where they're going. But for purposes, I understood, but the size of the 200 is not actually what you would normally see on a front of a building for a sign of an address. And normally it would say the street name, or they would have a monument sign that would have it. And in this case, they do not have a monument sign. There's no actual, unless they put it right in front of the building, there's no location for a monument sign. So I explained that having it to be the same size as the Michigan door windows, approximately, I look at it as 2 signs. They're not actually, to me, when they had it the first time, they had shown me where 200 is on the sign here. Michigan Doors and Windows was right next to it. So to me, it looked like 200. Michigan Doors and Windows was the name of the business. So I was appreciative that they were moving the signs to show them as 2 signs, but I still considered it a wall sign because it's not the main entrance of the structure, and we surely don't want to deter people that are going to the location as using this entrance as the entrance for the building as well, because that's not the intent. I think this is the end of the loading and unloading area, so you surely don't want the public opening and going into that because that defines it as the address location.
Okay. Thank you, Jody.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Mahoney.
Is the building separate? Because it looks like it is in the picture, but it doesn't.
In the picture, it looks like it's separate, and that's why we requested and submitted showing the rendering that we highlighted, because it is all one structure. There is no division in between the buildings that you received in the packet with the first set of sign information showing the directional. It is all one structure now. And then the parking highlighted in yellow. On the south side, they own a parcel now that is highlighted in yellow, and I believe that's where they want to show one of the directional signages. And then the yellow parking on the east portion in this area. And then there's loading and unloading, and they have some loading and unloading in the back. And this is parking here, but the entire structure is now all one. There may be a wall here in the building. I'm not sure. I haven't been in the structure, but the building itself is all now combined.
Okay. Additional question on the rendering that you provided today. So numbers 6 and 8, I assume those are the 2 directional signs that are for the north lot and south lot?
Yes, correct.
So what, I guess I'm trying to process why the south lot sign wouldn't be over by the south lot. It's actually past it. Am I reading that right?
008, that sign is the,
Go ahead, Jody.
If you look at the picture that I have up, that is the sign for 008, and that is the most westerly portion of the building, and you can see the pillars. That's where the main entrance of the structure is actually located, where the office is, where the receptionist and the associates.
So Jody, this is helpful because I didn't understand that. This, what you're showing us right now, that's 8?
If you look at the bottom of the picture, it says 008 on it, and then in the bottom corner, it shows the picture of the main structure. This one is going to be right across the street is 006, and it says the south lot, team members, visitor parking. That is the parcel that is on the south side of the building now, I believe is the team members parking. I'm trying to go back.
That seems like it's
that
more
picture.
easterly than it should be.
That is this area on the picture. If you can look at the screen that I have up, that is this area is the south parking. That is a separate parcel that is all members parking. That is defined as the 006 sign.
Okay, so on the rendering we have today, 6 is, it's
Gotcha.
Way west.
See what he's saying? I'm sorry. I'm going to show him what we're looking at. So on this rendering that was submitted to me, it shows number 6 as being here, and you guys have it back here, and that's what they're saying is it's farther to the west than the parking area. They think it should be moved back here to show that this is visitor parking, not here.
Okay, that's a good point. We can make that recommendation and we can make those changes.
And on the one that they submitted to me, it does show it here. This is 006, and this is where it's showing it here to this area.
So the site plan's conflicting with the picture you're on the
Yes.
screen. The directional sign would be located then where properly needed.
Right, this is, I think is where it's at. And so, by the parking. So I would include that in any motion that if the board's, commission's desire is to make sure that visitor parking shown as 006 is defined where you would like it to show that it's actually for that visitor parking. And so 005 is going to be the north shipping and receiving, and that is actually in the front of was submitted to me, in the front of the access to the loading and unloading area.
and then 2 and 4 are the wall signs.
For the building where the wall sign will be located, yes.
Good, thank you. I do want to let the applicant know before we proceed, we are 1 member short tonight, so you have the option of deferring to a later meeting, or we can continue.
I prefer to continue. I'm 150 miles away, so.
Okay.
Chair, could we have him spell his last name just for the record so we have it correctly spelled in the minutes?
Sure.
It's B, as in boy, O-N-G-I-O-R-N-O, Buongiorno.
Okay, thank you.
Buongiorno. You heard that all the time, don't you?
All the time. And sometimes not quite like that.
All right, thank you. I will open it up for discussion. Yes.
I'll speak. This is like out in the middle of a farm field. I don't think the sign on the wall is going to be any distraction for anybody. And I can just see the problem it's going to cause when semi-trucks go past that sign and they have to back up, especially in bad weather. It's just going to cause all kinds of headaches. So I have no problem with these directional signs. I don't think they're going to be an eyesore, and they're going to be needed. So,
Okay, thank you. Other comments, questions? Yes, Rick.
Yes, the address numerals would be white. It calls out them to be a white plastic numeral off with standoffs off the building. They're just 3/4 inch thick plastic acrylic numbers for the address. It is with the pictures and the glare of the sunshine on the pictures that were imposed on the drawing. But if you look at the notes on the spec sheet, it does call out for a matte white finish, satin finish on the numerals. No.
Other than that, the sign itself, I do agree, the 200 should be part of the
Additional comments? All right, I'll share my thoughts. Kind of struggled with this one a little bit. We have an existing sign ordinance that what you're asking for is, obviously the 3 different directional signs that are higher and larger square feet than what's in there. 2 wall signs, but only one's allowed per the ordinance. And now we're later on the agenda. We have a new sign ordinance that did not modify any of those requirements. It's the same requirements in our updated sign ordinance that we've spent a long time working on, and no one thought it was significant enough to make any changes to those requirements. So I'm scratching my head why we would. I don't know what the hardship is here or the reason for granting a larger square footage for the directional signs. The ordinance is pretty clear. The new ordinance that we're going to recommend or may recommend to the board didn't change any of that. Same with the number of wall signs, same with the height. It just doesn't make sense to me. I just don't, we're already potentially granting waivers to the new sign ordinance, and we haven't even got there yet. So I know what you mentioned as far as snow and visibility and size of the facility, but I'm sure all those things were taken into account when the sign ordinance was developed many years ago, and here we had another chance to look at it, and we didn't make any changes to that. So I just can't support what we're seeing here tonight.
Well, the importance of having a directional sign that's legible and people can read is important. If it is a smaller directional sign that you can't read, then there's no point to having it that doesn't serve its purpose, given the public directions on where to go and stuff. It just makes it that much more easier for people to see, especially elder people with poor eyesight. I'm getting eyesight that's not as good as it was 20 years ago. It's getting harder for me to see things. I appreciate a little bit more size and text, fonts, styles and stuff to make it more legible to read.
Jody, have you seen this? I'm only recently on the Planning Commission the last year and a half or so. Has this been a recurring issue or waiver request over the years?
I think the intent of the ordinance for entrance and exit and loading and unloading, enter and exit is mostly for like fast food joint places, ingress, egress to a specific place of, you'll see them at the banks, and they're usually smaller. And I think that was the intent of and that's why it allows for on the display for maybe at McDonald's, I'm going to use, they have an entrance and they have their M sign that says enter or their exit sign. Loading and unloading usually is within the site and not on the main entrance of the road. So loading and unloading for directional signages is if you pulled into this site before the addition was and you pulled in, they may have a loading and unloading sign at the end with an arrow pointing to the direction to the west side of the building to go to the loading docks. In this case, I can understand where the applicant is coming from. Their proportion of the structure has been increased. It is if you haven't been over there, it is a very large structure. There are a couple parcels on the south side that could still be developed with road frontage. The parcel that they own that is for parking, for visitor parking only. In that instance, I would say a directional signage for visitor parking, mainly because you don't want them going into the backside of the structure. If you haven't been over there, it's definitely a busy site with semi trucks coming in and out, a lot of forklifts moving around in the back, a lot of maintenance material and that around the backside of the building. So I can understand those portions. I did explain to them that it is only permitted the 3 feet in height. Because of the sign ordinance, we don't want those to stand out as a monument sign. 4 feet in height, overlay districts only allow 4 feet in height for a monument sign. We're asking for a directional sign. So I expressed my concern of the height of the sign, but I didn't have an issue with them requesting the directional signages for the actual site itself.
Correct. Yeah, and I would agree with that.
That makes sense and answers your question.
Directional signs, absolutely. The square footage, the height. One other thing, Bob, I guess the question I have is the 2 wall signs. It's good that I think if I did my math right, combined, they're about 30 square feet, which is well under the 50. Was there any thought in just combining into one sign and putting it, maybe in the upper left corner and just putting that 200, the address under the MI piece? Just make it one sign and use
Jody
up
makes
the
a good
50?
point, a couple good points here. One, with the size of the facility, should kind of like dictate or persuade what directional sign might work well for that place. Like you said, a small McDonald's restaurant or bank, a smaller directional sign, that's a little different. This is a huge facility out in the middle of nowhere. So the size of the facility and the size of directional sign should be considered in the review plan, the review of it. Also, with having the address too close to the name of the business, Jody made another good point where she thought, 200 MI is the whole name of the company, the business. It's not. 200 is the address of that building. So separation is needed, so there is no confusion of, MI 200.
Did you evaluate putting 200 underneath so it's not next to it? You can actually put the address. There's plenty of square footage remaining between 30 and 50 square feet.
We did not do the design of these plans, so the customer had these designs done for their taste, for what they wanted, what they required. So no, we did not consider putting the address underneath the name of the company and the letters for the wall sign.
And I did express that as then it would be, because I looked at it when they had it together as one sign, it looked like the name of the business was 200 MI Windows and Doors. And I expressed the same concern that Mr. Crowbrat has about putting the Michigan Windows and Doors and then the 200 Enterprise Drive under it as a actual labeling of the structure of the address, such as if you look at the wall sign that's up or the directional sign that's up, having the Michigan Doors and Windows and then the 200 Enterprise, as it would appear where the 200 is on the wall sign now. But I'm not designing their sign, I just gave input to them.
Correct. Yep. Thank you, Jody. Yes, Mr. Mahoney.
Yeah, I spent 35 years in sales, and I've been all over Detroit, all over Clinton Township, and I've gone in and out of these buildings a million times. And the clearer it can be on the building, I can appreciate and understand why you want to have it the way it is. Rick, I know you've been in industrial. What's your opinion on that? You've been in and out of a lot of industrial buildings as well, right?
Especially when you get onto complexes with multiple buildings, facilities, it does get difficult at times. The only thing I can say about this one is it is one long structure, so people are going to assume one address for the whole thing, which it is, versus many of the sites that I'm talking about have been in where you've got multiple buildings that are all separated. So there's a little bit different there. I do get where Mr. Colbert is coming from. The 200, I don't know if it boils down to cost or what, but honestly, I was going to do it for me. I'd put 200 Enterprise right there altogether. I wouldn't, whether it was close to the MI Windows and Doors or not, the actual 200, I would just want to address street name. It was my personal. So that's going to be up to the commission here whether we would go with that or whether the option would be to say, what, we can go ahead and approve something like that. We want the name of the street underneath it. Or maybe nothing at all. I don't know. Commission as a whole here, how we want to look at that. It's also a little bit hard to tell. Both the 200 and the MI, they're 2 feet tall. One is a little over 5 feet, the other one is almost 10 feet long. I think just the way the drawing is, they look like they're very close in size, which I think is probably a little misleading. Obviously, I don't think it's 100% scale here.
to clarify, this is all or nothing, right? I mean, we can't approve the way it's presented. We have to either approve all waivers or none.
Yes, unless the applicant's representative wants to withdraw some certain aspect of it.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to mention with the street name, there is a cost factor involved in that. So I mean, I don't want to spend somebody else's money. No one wants to spend any more money than they have to. People that are at the facility, they know what street they're on. Everyone's on their GPS. Everyone knows what street you're at. So to put the name of the street on the building just adds cost to the project, and also more penetrations through the new building, the facade of the building. It takes that many more penetrations. So, but it's a cost factor to put the street name up there. Everybody should know what street they're on. So.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Fritz.
I have no problem with the size in relationship to the size of the building. I think, yes, it's not what we usually do, but this isn't a usual project. So I would support it.
And that's why we're here for a variance, asking for a variance because of this unique situation with this building.
You can only grant waivers.
What's that? Sorry.
You can only grant waivers.
Oh, gotcha. Any further discussion? Mr. Helm.
I think I agree with Ron for the way it looks and the signage and the size of the building, where it's at. It's off the beat. It's not in a big residential or near residential, so I have no problem with what's presented.
So I'm still processing, right? I mean, the way we're going to look at our proposed sign ordinance here shortly does not talk about anything that you guys are bringing up right now as far as size of the building, scale. That's not in there, but we're using that as logic to make this decision. So to me, that's it. Just that our job is to look at the ordinance and support the ordinance, unless there's extraordinary circumstances that cause us to consider that. And I just don't see the extraordinary circumstances in this situation. I mean, I just don't see it. Mr. Fritz.
Have we not approved other situations of the same thing with the same publication we have here? And the question, and the answer is yes.
Similar directional signs and two signs. I don't know if we've approved the same thing.
Not the same exact, but we've approved bigger ones.
Yeah, and
I think in this case, it would be the right thing.
And not to go down, just because something was approved before doesn't mean we need to keep making it the same mistake or interpreting it that same way. It's okay to have this debate and discuss these things. My point is, we didn't have this discussion when we were working on the sign ordinance that we're about to recommend to the board, but yet we're using it as logic to approve waivers. I just can't connect the dots there. Yes, Mr. Andrews.
I think per the ordinance, I guess the impetus is on us as a commission to approve or not approve based on certain concerns such as health and safety. And I think the argument that you laid out, whether it be snow cover given the height variance that you're looking for or the square footage variance, semis will need a little bit larger of a sign given they sit higher. It's a little harder to see a 1 by 2 foot sign. And so I think from a health and safety perspective, I would maybe urge the commission to think about it from that perspective. I'm in favor of, at least for the directional signs, I think you have a case. There's not really a means on this site if you were to drive your semi straight through instead of turning at the correct directional sign. There's not really a means to turn around, and so you're talking about potentially a traffic hazard. And so I think we should.
Icy road conditions for semi-drivers trying to maneuver, back up, turn around would be a nightmare.
So I think from that perspective, as a commission, we could think about granting this waiver to protect potentially the safety of, occupants of the site.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Yeah, and just to clarify my statement, I'm in favor of the directional signs. I definitely think it's needed. The size and height is where I have concern. So additional comments? If not, I think we're getting ready for a motion. And if there is one, let me ask the applicant, based on what you've heard, sticking with what's been requested, or would you like to pull anything out of the request tonight?
No, I think everything is presented to the commission. It makes sense. It'll serve the public well. And we did make note on sign number 6 to move it more to the east to indicate the parking lot. I think that was just somebody that did the drawing wasn't sure, perhaps. So I would make those notes to moving the directional sign 6 over like recommended from the commission. But everything that's presented on our side makes sense. At this facility, it's a unique situation, and we feel like what we're requesting is good for the location.
Okay, thank you. There's no further discussion. Looking for a motion, gentlemen.
Go to page 1.
Turn your head.
Oops.
I'll make a motion that we allow a waiver to allow 3 private directional signs, 4 square foot area waiver for each of the proposed private directional signs, a 1 foot overall height waiver for each of the private directional signs, and a waiver to permit 1 additional wall sign as presented. The following shall be considered for inclusion with this motion. All required permits shall be obtained from the Bedford Township. The applicant shall continue to maintain the entire perimeter, landscaped area of the base, no less than 2 feet wide, growing and in healthy condition.
I'll second it.
Moved and supported. Do you guys want to include the moving of sign number 6?
I'll accept that if you want to add that.
I'm just asking. So moving of, on the drawing that was handed out tonight, it's moving of sign number 6 over, you want to say, in the northeast corner of the south parking lot?
Well, that's part of, so that'll be part of it. You'll put the sign where it needs to be.
Yes, the signs are going to absolutely go where they make sense, where
Not
they're
gonna-
supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think somebody who did this drawing is not sure, perhaps, what they were drawing. So the directional signs will be where they need to go on the property.
Any further discussion?
I'm sorry, did Mr. Fritz or Mr. Helm second that?
Second.
Did you accept that amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Jody, take the vote, please.
Mr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Mr. Fritz?
Aye.
Mr. Helm?
Aye.
Mr. Andrews?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner? Mr. Kovrat?
No?
Motion carried.
Thank you, everybody.
Safe trip back.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a ride. Thanks. Have a good night.
2. Okay, item number 7B. Open the public hearing to amend Bedford Township Ordinance number 44, known as the Township of Bedford Zoning Ordinance, which originally became effective May 5th, 1977, so as to amend the provisions to regulate signage in all zoning districts, and to do so by modifying and adding provisions to Section 1922 400.1922, and for the purpose of promoting and protecting the public health, safety, and general welfare of the residents and properties of the Township of Bedford, which shall include a text amendment to Section 1922 signs and Article 14, general provisions. 19, sorry. Article 19, general provisions. At this point, we will open the public hearing. Jody, you want to give us a summary, please?
Yes. All of the comments that have been from the meetings that we've had on the Wednesdays and the meetings we've had within the township with a couple commission members at one time and the attorney are lined of what is being added and lined through of what will be removed, and in red what was taken out completely that was added at one time. All the comments that are in the packet that you received are comments that have been amended and changed by the commission. Moving forward, the only comment that I have after reviewing the language again. Yes?
No, okay, we weren't getting it back.
Oh, I thought we could hear me.
Just so everybody knows, these speakers are completely different from what I'm getting back there. So, sorry.
Is highlighted in yellow. And I am requesting that section of the ordinance to be removed. It says freestanding accessory signs shall not be placed closer than 50 feet to any adjacent residential district on parcels with less than 300 feet of width and not closer than 100 feet on all other parcels. Having said that, in a commercial district, we only require 100 feet of frontage. So if we have a parcel that is 100 feet in frontage adjacent to a residential district, the sign would be placed at minimally in the middle of the parcel, probably right on top of the entrance drive, or if it's adjacent on both sides, they would not be permitted a sign. Or they'd have to seek, after this, a language, a sign variance. So I'm just asking for discussion or input on that. I think we take into consideration when a developer or a commercial building is in place, an industrial, we take into consideration the surrounding districts already and placement of them. There are monument signs now. We're not looking, I think this language was more when it was pole signs were permitted, and we didn't want the pole signs closer on a residential district. That's just my interpretation, but I believe removing it is not going to hinder. Usually they're either placement is being reviewed on site plan approval process or it's being approved by the planning department. That's the only other change that I have. I'm open to discussion. If once you've had an opportunity to review this, we will definitely have discussion further.
Thank you, Jody. This time, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak about this sign ordinance? Okay. Seeing that there are no comments from the public at this time, we will close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Been supported. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Okay, public hearing is now closed, and we will open up for discussion. Mr. Snyder. It's Mr.
I had a
Murray.
question under political signs, section 5. It says a political sign may only advertise candidates or support opposition for any proposition or issue, any general, primary, special, school, or any other election. It may not be used for any other purpose. What other purpose would that might be, for example?
What number are you on?
Political signs, number 5.
Language that was in the ordinance, and it was never encouraged from any of the commission to remove it or change it.
I'm just wondering, I kept thinking, what could that possibly mean or intend to prohibit?
Never know. Something could pop up.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
and I think it's pertaining to when the issue is for that specific election, because it says on the proposition or issue at any general, primary, special, school, or any other election, it may not be used for any other purpose, that if the sign is put up for the election purpose, because I believe there are political signs that people leave up all year, but I think when it's for the election that's going on, because that's my interpretation of it, because it specifies all of the elections that we would have, whether it be specific of a general election or a primary, not in general of someone having a political sign up. Mm-hmm. That's just my interpretation of it.
Additional comments? I know we spent a lot of time on this over many, many months. Jody and Katrina, you guys did a great job. Yes, Mr. Fritz.
Question for you, to Jody. Do we want to vote on that, or do you just comment? I mean, we vote on that and then we move on? Or this
Vote
one here? On this freestanding one?
Oh, the removal of that? No, when you make the motion, you can say as presented, because I have it highlighted to remove.
Okay.
If discussion was to remove it, if you want to make a motion to remove it, we absolutely can. But this is a recommendation to the Township Board. I will not be bringing it back, so any further discussion or changes need to be addressed tonight. It will go to the Township Board, the second meeting in September, on September 19th. And that will be the Township Board making a determination. So any recommendations, you can recommend to remove that, and we will remove it when we submit the final draft to the Township Board. But this is just a recommendation.
Well, I don't know if I could sleep at night without making this statement after my previous comments. So I don't think we need to revise this right now. Item 1D, little d, the private directional sign paragraph. But I, just for the record in the minutes and making it to the board, Rick, if you could take it and at least express. And I think there needs to be some discussion there about industrial versus commercial uses and signage and considerations. And I don't know what that is right now, but we just had that discussion today. I don't know if we should be applying one set of criteria to multiple land uses, multiple zoning uses. I think there just needs to be some more clarification in this section.
Mr. Chair, can I add to that?
Yes.
I believe that a lot of those directional signages are reason it comes back to the Planning Commission, and we did not change that language. The directional signage, if it doesn't comply, will still come back to the Planning Commission, because normally those are submitted on a site plan. In this case, they were not included on their site plan when they came and amended it and added the extension of this structure. I believe that if we're going to change it, we should look at all zoning districts on it, or we should leave it and require any changes for them to seek a variance from the sign waiver, or bring it back with their site plans when they come, because most of those are really just for directional on a commercial or industrial site. But I think that the intent of those is to be included on a site plan when it goes to the Planning Commission for the actual flow of traffic on site as it stands. Correct.
By the Planning Commission, not the BZA.
And it would
In
still
those
come back
cases.
to the planning because it's part of a site plan. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jody. Any further commentary? If not, we're looking for a recommendation, right? A motion for a recommendation.
recommendation.
Okay, Mr. Mahoney.
I'll make a motion to present a recommendation to the Township Board to accept the changes to the sign ordinances as presented tonight, including removal of that section. What was it?
Oh, the one is marked in yellow.
Freestanding accessory signs.
Yeah, there it is. Freestanding accessory signs shall not be placed closer than 50 feet to any adjacent residential district on parcels with less than 300 feet of width, not closer than 100 feet on all other parcels. Be removed.
I hear support.
I'll support.
Mr. Helm. Any further discussion? Okay, Jody, you take the roll call vote, please.
Mr. Mahoney,
Aye.
Mr. Helm,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner, Mr. Fritz,
Aye.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Kovret.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Why are you smiling so much over
Because
there?
I was getting nervous. No one was making a motion. Don't fail me now.
Good stuff. All right, item number 8, public comment. It's your third chance. All right, no public comment. Move on to information. Jody.
Nothing other than I'd like to reiterate again that the sign ordinance will be presented to the Township Board on September 19th, second Tuesday of September. Once the Township Board makes a recommendation, there is 8 days after that it would go into effect after publication. Other than that, thank you again for all your guys' work on the sign ordinance. I'm not going to give information right now, I'll just give my comments.
Okay.
And everyone have a good evening.
Thanks, Jody. Commission staff comment. Start on the left.
Nothing for me, thank you.
I know you got some out there that we keep talking about one at a time, I want in mind, comment real quick, if not, tell us you'll bring it to us the next meeting, what might be next. Other than that, that's all.
Andrews.
No comments. Have a good night, everyone.
Mr. Mahoney.
Nothing. Have a good night.
Mr. Fritz.
There again, thanks to the planning department for the fine job they did.
I have nothing. Well, I do have one more thing then. Next, I'm looking at the outdoor music that will be coming back and sound ordinance. We have several of them. Fairs and festivals will be coming back. I do have a list, and we have been working on them, gathering information from other communities and working with legal on those. And I would also like to personally thank Katrina because she has done a ton of work on amending all the languages, and you'll see that she has been on all the minutes of the meetings. So I am very thankful to have her in my department, and I wanted to make sure that she got the recognition because she has done a ton of work on that ordinance. That is all, and I won't promise I won't say nothing else.
Well, I will also echo that. Thank you both, Jody, Katrina. Great job. Hopefully, that makes it through the process, and we don't need to revisit that for a few years, and then we can move on to some other things. And hopefully, our number of sign waiver requests go down. Right as a result, we need to do some real planning and not talking about sign waivers all the time, in my humble opinion. So thank you guys. Have a good evening, and meeting is adjourned.